On this episode of the Layover Live, Kim Murdens with Visit Chesapeake stops by to talk about niche marketing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 167 of the Layover Live, where we bring you the top article from the Layover each week. I'm Jason Swick, VP of Strategy and Insights, and welcome to this week's show. Now, user behavior has certainly changed, and for many DMOs, this has really affected the way that we reach and communicate with our intended audiences. And it should go without saying at this point that today's destination brands should identify and focus on a specific audience or a group of people, all with the same interests and wants and needs. The main goal of this, of course, is to discover a niche that better connects us with our or the travelers rather with our destinations to ultimately result in overall growth. Now, unfortunately, when it comes down to it, many steer away from strategies that involve niche audiences and often choose to cast a wider net. And this is often motivated, I think, by size of an audience, believing that a larger audience is often going to yield a much greater result with more conversions or more desired actions, when more often than not, I would say that the opposite is true from the data that we've seen. Now, one such destination that's out there that is really capitalizing on targeting niche audiences and finding these new pockets of opportunity is the team at Chesapeake. And today I'm joined by one of them, Miss Kim Murden, who is the tourism manager at the Chesapeake CVB. So, Kim, I want to welcome you to the show and thanks for taking time to be here.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Look forward to kind of sharing what we're doing here in Chesapeake, what's been working for us, and talking with you this afternoon.
That's great. And before we get into it, our article of the week this week comes from Search Engine Land, where it talks about three PPC targeting tactics that really power every stage of the funnel. And one of those tactics is really knowing your audience and finding that niche, which we're going to get into with Kim shortly, because they're doing some really, really, really good work that I wanted to make sure we had her on to tell this story, because it's a really good story. But before we get into that, there's going to be some folks out there, Kim, that I'm sure that don't know who you are. So maybe if you don't mind, before we jump into some questions, maybe just a little background on yourself.
Sure. Tourism manager for the city of Chesapeake, Virginia. Have actually been with Chesapeake, amazing, getting ready to start my 25th year. Opened the conference center here in Chesapeake, our meeting facility, before there was even a tourism development program in Chesapeake. And through opening that center, we recognized that we needed that outreach. We needed some brand identity for Chesapeake in our growing travel market that we had in our city, with some hotel development and expansion that went on over the period of about 5 or 6 years. So in 2002 is kind of when we rolled that out, and it's been something that I've worked on and have kind of built my career on over the past 24 years, just really working in expanding the tourism program here in Chesapeake, bringing in new travelers, supporting our not only our meeting industry with the conference center, our meeting hotels, but really expanding into the leisure market here.
Yeah, so it sounds like you've been busy over that time. Again, a veteran coming in, probably seen a lot of change, right? You've seen changes come with 9/11, seen changes come with the housing crisis in '07. Now this new disruption that we're seeing now with the pandemic. So again, that's why I was so happy to have you come on and talk about this. So you gave some background on yourself, and thanks for sharing that. Now I want to get into some background a little bit with Visit Chesapeake, because I think for a lot of folks, just kind of understanding where you guys are and whatnot. It's a familiar name, but I think a lot of people just don't know about the destination. So maybe before we get into it, maybe let's talk a little bit about your destination for those that maybe aren't as familiar with Chesapeake.
Sure. So Chesapeake, Virginia, we are located in the southeast section of Virginia. Coastal Virginia is what we reference. We're kind of on the outskirts of the Virginia Beach ocean front and downtown Norfolk. We extend up to Williamsburg, out to the eastern shore. That's part of this DMA, which makes up the most second traveled region in the state of Virginia, behind Northern Virginia. Chesapeake ourselves, we can almost be considered kind of like the suburbia of the coastal Virginia region. I think the really interesting thing about our market in this particular region is, even though it's made up by a number of and counties, each one has its own personality. And we all kind of own it. You know, Norfolk is our downtown area for the region. Certainly Virginia Beach is the ocean front. But then when you look at our other neighboring cities, we all bring, like I said, a different flavor. Chesapeake tends to be outdoor in nature, waterways that are different from the ocean front, but still magnificent, if I could speak today. That's beautiful, our waterfront that's beautiful. And, you know, we really, in the short term, have really recognized the appeal there and what we have to offer. And when we partner with our neighboring cities, it's a great opportunity for us to invite, and kind of that hub and spoke opportunity, not only having people come in to visit Chesapeake, but then also branch out and explore other opportunities within the region. Same thing, vice versa with our neighboring cities. You know, the more that we can offer them, even crossing borders, the better. Get people staying longer, spending more time in our region, and you know, really just working together to put together a nice package, not only for each of our individual cities, but also coastal Virginia as a whole.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think it's a great way to get an understanding of the overall destination, and that's well traveled, right? Which is good to know. And you being more outdoors focused, I'm sure has helped in some ways during the pandemic. Which I want to kind of get into this next piece then, because as we were thinking about the narrative for the show, you know, this Paddle the Peake campaign you came up with is a brilliant idea. Leverage some of the niche audience that we talked about, and some of the things you guys are doing really well. So let's talk about that a little bit. Maybe talk a little bit about, you know, if you don't mind, about the Paddle the Peake campaign, how this came about, and maybe give someone a little bit of the backstory here before we get into the results, which will be my follow up to this.
So sure. So about 18 years ago,
Mhm.
2005, we developed a program as a city. We call it Paddle to the Border.
Okay.
It's a cooperative program that we have with neighboring North Carolina, and takes place on the Dismal Swamp Canal, which is actually a historic canal system, has a tremendous amount of history that goes along with it. It's part of the Great Dismal Swamp National Wildlife Refuge. And again, kicked it off this year, would have been our 16th annual event that typically sells out in about 2 weeks. We have about 375 vessels that were able to get on the water. They launch from North Carolina. They take about a 6-mile paddle up to Chesapeake, across the border between the two states, ending with a wonderful party and activity for folks that had participated in it. Very popular event, a lot of interest in it year after year. And unfortunately, with COVID, certainly last year, we were not able to move forward with it. And as we were wrapping around to January of this year, we had to make the decision on whether or not we were going to move forward with this event. And still not knowing how COVID was going to, you know, transition and play out over the next 6 months. And because of the amount of work it takes, and just logistically with volunteers and transportation, and making this whole event work like a well-oiled machine, we had to make the difficult decision back in January that we were not going to do it again in 2021. But we knew we wanted to do something. We didn't want to go for another year where we didn't recognize the opportunities that are not only on the Dismal Swamp Canal, but other waterways that we have here in Chesapeake. And so the team sat down, our special event team, our tourism team, and we just kind of started talking through what are some other things that we can do. We had just launched our app with you guys, and we were looking at the passport feature and just started tossing around some ideas of utilizing the passport with a program that allowed us to help guide people through Chesapeake's waterways. We have 9 sites. Some of them are very remote, and a lot of people don't necessarily know about them. Very accessible, but just, you know, it is kind of self-directed when you're talking about kayaking and paddling and knowing where to go. Each waterway has its own different flavor and types of things that you might see, from flora and fauna to nature, and even the paddle experience itself. So we came up with this program called Paddle the Peake, and basically utilizing the passport feature on the app. We identified these 9 locations, and then we have prizes or rewards that people can get when they experience or participate in the Paddle the Peake program. Sorry. The first check-in, we have 4 levels. We have a creek crawler, a steam splasher, a river runner, and a paddle pro. And with each one, so level 1 at creek crawler, the first one that you check in, we have a Paddle the Peake sticker that we mail out to participants. Once you hit 3 paddles in Chesapeake, unique paddles that you've checked in, they receive a dry bag. At 6 paddles, we have a baseball cap with the Paddle the Peake logo on it. And then at 9, at the 4th level, they're considered a paddle pro. And we have an Nalgene water bottle that we send out to the participants. And so the whole objective of the program was to create more awareness of what we've defined as a very important niche market for us. When you go onto the app, there's everything there where you put in to include coordinates. There's information about the particular site, what the paddle experience is like. There's paddle safety tips that are part of the app, just to make sure that that information is out there. As well as some of the things and activities that people will see when they go to that particular location. And it's really just brought together this great trail, if you will, for folks that are either new to paddle or they're expert paddlers and they've participated in activities all over. There's something for everyone to be able to go out and participate. And along with that, we can look at some of the historical things that are located within Chesapeake, again, like the Dismal Swamp Canal, where we held our event, creating awareness to that not only is it just a beautiful waterway, but there's history that dates back to George Washington that's part of that particular canal system that people can learn about.
Yeah, very cool, and that's a great way. I love to hear about how that came about. Also, it's a really unique use of the app, which I thought was really clever. Like to be able to, we think of apps, we think of when we create the passports, think of like creating these trails that we do, but to do it on the water was really unique. And then you kind of gamified it too to make it fun, and that's a perfect example of using a niche audience, right? And finding that audience out there and expanding on some of the success that you guys had with the other campaign before that. So now let's try to get into a little bit of the results, right? Because I think you guys had some great results from it. I know you did. You focus on some channels like app promotion, paid search, and some others. But let's talk about the results a little bit. So tell us about some of the success maybe that you've seen so far.
Well, we kicked the event off Memorial Weekend.
Hmm.
Late May was when we publicly launched it. Since then, there's been a couple of things that have been really positive with the launch of the Paddle the Peake and the Passport program. It really was kind of the public launch of the Visit Chesapeake app as well. We've had 3,100 unique users, which we were really pleased with. And a lot of that is based on really the promotion of Paddle the Peake. But with that, out of 3,100, we've had about 1,500 unique users. We've had a total of 102 check-ins, which over a 9-week period, we are really kind of exceeded our expectations, because you think about most people are going to be out on the waterways on the weekend. It's given us an opportunity to begin to have some tangible data collection of folks that have interest in paddle sports and being on the water. And we've had 2 folks that have actually already achieved our top level paddle pro, which means, having to hit 9 locations over the period of about 9 weeks, we've had people in Chesapeake on the water every weekend. And also, just anecdotally, conversations that I've seen on social media through, acquaintances of mine that maybe didn't quite realize that this program came through my office, but knowing that they were a novice paddler and kind of seeing their experiences weekend after weekend, being out on the water, talking about visiting new places that they didn't even know that were within their city. And some of their anecdotal comments that they made on their social media went on to open up some conversation about maybe having them be a guest blogger just from a novice paddler, what their experience was in Chesapeake and why this appealed to them. And just, looking at those opportunities that we perhaps, one, they wouldn't have been able to experience because they didn't have that roadmap, if you will, that kind of guided them through what they could do in Chesapeake, but then opened up some other marketing opportunities for us through a testimonial, if you will, through the blog that we could look at that. Going into this, again, have no idea, what to expect, but I do think from launch and utilization and, people interested in the program, visiting the app, time on app, being well over 3 minutes. And then back to how we see them coming back to our website, looking for that information and kind of how they've begun to engage with our website. I think overall it's been a great success for us and just been really pleased. It's created a lot of a buzz and I think we've hit all those different areas that we were hoping to hit when the program launched.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you. I think it's incredibly successful. We're talking about niche campaigns, very successful. You were launching a new app. You found an incredible way to promote it. The downloads is amazing. The check-ins are amazing. It shows people are engaging with your content, which is exactly like you said, what you wanted to do, which is really cool. And then trying to find ways to plus one that, right? So you talked about wanting to like utilize some of the folks out there to come and write blog posts about things like that. I love to hear that stuff, right? It's like this thing that keeps on nurturing itself and growing and growing and growing, which kind of brings me up to this question I wanted to ask you about is what does the future look like for this program, right? It sounds like there's a lot more opportunity. So I wanted to ask you what does that look like for this program?
Yeah, I think there is, as we've started,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, moving forward and looking kind of how to capture this market segment, one of the things that we're looking at moving forward to fall, people in Virginia, they think about the mountain region being, changing of the leaves and
Right.
that's the place to go. But really here in Chesapeake, the locations where many of the locations where we have to paddle, the waterways in the fall are just spectacular. It's the trees fire up and it's just an experience that is unique to kind of get out there and enjoy the changing of the leaves. And the great thing about it too is it happens a hair later than what you might see in the mountain regions, right? Because we're a little further east. But we're looking forward as we start moving into fall, looking at ways that we can encourage folks that maybe have completed Paddle the Peake, are in the process of still working towards it, to offer some incentives for them to do some fall kayaking. Even, working with our local hotels to maybe put together a fall package that revolves around that particular experience or with our outfitter during a time that might not be as busy for us or might not be top of mind on why you'd want to get on our waterways. But it truly is just beautiful. And so that's where we're kind of turning the corner into fall, looking at how to reach back out to folks and again, keep it fresh, keep the information out there. Again, encourage on water activity, fall travel, be it day trip or overnight to Chesapeake, kind of capitalize on that changing of the colors that Virginia is known for, but doing a little bit of a twist to it, and seeing how that might work for us here in Chesapeake.
Yeah, I love that idea, right? It's something again that you're expanding on, taking it from like this campaign you did over Memorial Weekend and now carrying it into the fall. Yeah, fall colors tourism is huge. If anybody that's familiar with that, it's really big. But what a unique perspective to be able to experience on the water, looking back towards the land, and looking towards the trees. I'm glad to hear you guys say that. I think it's a great opportunity and something absolutely worth trying. So, got about a minute left. I want to ask you one thing because again, this is really, really good content. Kim, this is great to come on and share this and how you guys found this niche and this pocket and this opportunity. How about, just, quickly some, a piece of advice maybe for your fellow marketers out there?
Well, I think, what we try really hard here is just own who we are.
Hmm.
Not every destination has an ocean front, not every destination has an amusement park, and that's absolutely okay. Tourism in Chesapeake is a $400 million industry for us. And, to continue to maintain its health, we just really, look at these little pockets of how we own who we are, and try to capitalize on who we are, and not try to be something that we're not. And, 5 or 6 years ago, we might not have looked at, outdoor recreation, paddling, kayaking, as strong as an opportunity as we see it today.
Hmm.
We've done some infrastructure improvements, and, we've continued to mature our marketing efforts. Certainly with COVID and kind of the switch to outdoor activities becoming more um, prevalent, really across the country, and recognizing that we had this asset kind of sitting in our back door, we felt like it was a great opportunity to really put out there, who we are, that we are a paddle destination, that it's just a great place to come. And I think some of that just comes from us trying to really hold true to our authentic self and who we are as a destination.
Yeah, I love that, your authentic self. I think that's good words. I think that's great advice. We've heard it from others too. Gathan Borden and Visit Lex and others have said the same thing. Owning who you are, what is going to create this unique opportunity for our audiences that can separate us from other people. So that is a great example. So Kim, thank you for coming on and sharing this. I think it's again a really great story, incredible success, and I wish the best for you and the team moving forward. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to kind of chat with you this afternoon.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. And thanks for tuning in. If you're not subscribed, please do so now. It really helps us out. We're also available on Spotify and iTunes through audio podcast if you like to consume your content that way. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next time and have a great day.